The year is 1916, and like many young men of that time, you have been called to serve your country in the cold trenches of World War I. It has been 2 years since the Great War began, and by now, all ideas of honor and hope for mankind have been replaced with nothing but fear. All you see around you are rats, diseases, mustard gas attacks, and ultimately, the tragic death of your fellow brothers in arms. As you hunker down in the trenches, you hear the enemy artillery getting closer and closer. In this moment of utter desperation, you think to yourself, surely nothing could be worse than being in this position. And as the enemy artillery gets louder and louder by the second, you close your eyes and just hope for a quick end. And then, it does. Nothing but darkness. Are you dead? Is this what the afterlife is? As you open your eyes, you realize you're in an entirely different location. A beautiful, yet utterly destroyed European town. Surely another area affected by the Great War. But as you continue walking, you feel a sense of unease creep up on you. Something doesn't feel right. Moments ago you were surviving an artillery attack with your fellow soldiers. Now you find yourself in an area safe from enemy attacks, but somehow more eerie, like you don't belong in this place. And then, emerging from the shadowy, desolate buildings, you see them, enemy soldiers looking for survivors. But as they get closer, you realize something very unnerving. These aren't the same enemy soldiers you're used to fighting. These are demons. Demons of World War I. Welcome to the world of Trench Tales. If you watched my recent update video, you saw that I'd recently got into the tabletop game Trench Crusade. I don't necessarily care about the tabletop aspect nearly as much as I do the lore in the Dark Universe. And I'm guessing because of this, the algorithm saw that I had interested in creepy World War I settings. And that is how I came across this game, Trench Tales. A very impressive looking indie game being developed by a very few amount of people. The game's essence is about a World War I soldier who gets pulled by mysterious forces to a different timeline. A timeline that still shares the same level of chaos and destruction found in World War I, although with a more Lovecraftian twist. As someone who's constantly looking for interesting worlds to talk about, Trench Tales has certainly caught my attention. But let's talk a little about the gameplay, because at the end of the day, this is what's most important in a game. And as many of you have seen, Trench Tales is a third-person shooter with some Soul-like mechanics. Much like other recent third-person shooters, the developers of Trench Tales have said goodbye to the cover mechanics seen in earlier shooters like Uncharted and Gears of War. Instead, you have to make your own cover, whether it be by hiding behind objects in the world or using the destruction mechanic to your advantage. And let me tell you, I played the playtest, and the level of destruction you can cause in this game is exciting to say the least. And the fun thing about it is that the environment is not just a backdrop, but an interactive element that plays a significant role in gameplay. Many objects and structures in the game can be destroyed, which opens up new ways to overcome obstacles. This can also create opportunities that offer more strategic advantages. Almost everything in the environment can be demolished or manipulated to suit your needs. When I was playing the playtest, I noticed an explosive shell sitting by the side of the road. I knew that shooting it would probably serve as another creative way of killing enemies. But what I didn't know was that the explosion would open up the building for me to explore and look for supplies. This level of destruction not only adds another layer of realism to this war-torn universe, but it also offers the ability to shape the battlefield to your advantage. Something else the game is adding is a robust weapon customization feature. Each weapon in the game can be upgraded by improving its accuracy, firing rate, damage, recoil, and magazine capacity. This feature allows you to select any part of your weapon and swap it out for a different one, which can either be purchased from a trader or found in the world. This level of customization also extends to the explosives and grenades, allowing you to modify the spread, explosion power, and delay. This, in my opinion, is a much more interesting mechanic than just picking up a random weapon from the battlefield and discarding them whenever you run out of ammo. But as it's normally the case with almost every game these days, there's something in Trench Tales that scares me above all else. And it's not the giant dude with the artillery gun, it's the term Souls-like. Now, this term is nowhere to be found in the Kickstarter page, but the way the developer describes some mechanics in Trench Tales, it makes it sound like it's going in that direction. This is how the developer describes how the leveling up system works in Trench Tales. As you engage in combat and defeat enemies, they will drop spheres, the currency of this world. Collect these spheres to purchase items and upgrades that will aid you on your journey through Verdun. But beware, death comes with consequences in Trench Tales. Upon dying, you'll drop all of your currency, which you must retrieve in order to reclaim it. This adds an extra layer of challenge and risk and reward gameplay, encouraging careful consideration of your actions in every encounter. If I'm being frank, this is one of the most annoying developments in modern game design. I understand that it has its purposes, but almost every game I play has a similar mechanic. I recently have gotten into Lies of P, for similar reasons I've gotten into Trench Tales actually. The world is just so damn interesting. But I gotta tell you, the moment I lost over 10,000 souls that I had worked really hard to get, that was the moment I wanted to call it quits for the night. Because I knew what followed wasn't going to be me trying to get better at the game. I was just going to run past every single enemy desperately trying to get my souls back. And what do you know? The moment I got my souls, I died again. I know this mechanic is meant to reinforce careful and thoughtful play, but at least in my case, it has the complete opposite effect. And it saddens me that Trench Tale will also be adding a similar mechanic. But despite my issues with its Souls-like elements, I'm still very hyped about this game. You have to remember that this is an indie game being made by a very small group of developers, and it already looks 20 times more interesting than your typical AAA game. Not just graphically speaking, but also in the tone it's going for. The story synopsis reads as follows. In the heart of Verdun, a realm torn asunder by the conflict of two brothers vying for control of the throne, you emerge as a lone wanderer, a stranger amidst the chaos of war. Bound by destiny to a world not your own, you find yourself entangled in a struggle that threatens to consume everything it touches. As the monarch's legacy teeters on the brink of collapse, you navigate the treacherous landscapes hunted by the echoes of battle, seeking a way back to the reality you once knew. Yet, in your quest for escape, you uncover secrets buried deep within the fabric of Verdun. Secrets that might hold the key to your salvation, or plunge you further into the abyss. This is obviously far from a comprehensive look at the story, and obviously we will learn more about it after the game comes out. But I think it's important to point out that the story of Trench Tales is steering away from the generic approach in most AAA games. Instead, this is a story that encourages interacting with the world. If you just want to shoot demonic World War I soldiers, you can do that. But if you want to learn more about the world of Verdun and the forces that control it, you will have to pay attention to the world around you. This isn't really a new storytelling style, but as I get older, I realize that this approach is much better suited for video games, as it makes experiencing the story more tangible, like you're actually there interacting with the world. In addition to the main story, the game will feature side missions that expand upon the lore and provide opportunities for exploration and discovery. These missions may require revisiting locations, unlocking new paths, and interacting with factions and characters to uncover hidden secrets about the truth behind your summoning to Verdun. Already, we know of a few NPCs that will give us these types of side missions. First, there's Kel Dracon, a ruthless commander within the Combat Intelligence Directorate, who, according to his bio, clawed his way to power through deceit and manipulation, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. So, think of him as being a member of a more supernatural secret service. There's also Dr. Victor Void Bane, a sinister and calculating figure known for his mastery of medical science and complete disregard for morality. And finally, you have your what do you buy character, Brother Marcellus, someone who will always be ready to sell you much needed ammunition and trinkets that hold great power. His character bio also mentions the existence of the religion of this universe, the Church of the Grey Ashes. This is something we know very little of, pretty much nothing. But it seems like out of all of the supernatural forces in this world, this one will be on our side. Maybe this institution will be responsible for giving the protagonist certain supernatural abilities, like the ability to slow down time around them, or teleport behind enemy lines to ambush his enemies. Whether the Church of Grey Ashes will be responsible for giving us those powers or not, we don't know. But what we do know is that we will need help from those powers, because the enemies we'll face aren't just normal humans. As I mentioned in the intro, the main troops you'll encounter in Trench Tales are these demonic soldiers. To show the resilience of these soldiers, the developer recently took to Twitter to show how these enemies can ambush you in the most horrible way possible. The developer also showed a clip of a giant soldier wielding what looks to be a stationary artillery gun. This guy gives me some serious communicating anti-tanker hunter vibes. And we don't know anything about the bosses we'll face, but once again it seems like they aren't just your typical hardened war generals. They seem to be war clerics who have submerged themselves in demonic powers. The whole game just drips with this Lovecraftian horror aesthetic, and I for one absolutely love it. Of course, there are still a lot of mysteries to uncover, like who or what are the forces that summoned you to this alternate timeline. The World War I horror aesthetic is one that I recently found, and I just can't get enough of it. We already have Trench Crusade competing with Warhammer in the tabletop space. Now imagine if Trench Tales could have the same level of success in the video game space. The whole point of this video was to, well, geek out over this universe. But I also wanted to give the game a shout out because I think it deserves to have more eyes on it. So if you liked what you've seen here, there are a couple of ways to support the project. First, you can help fund the project by becoming a supporter through the official website. You can also help them a great deal by wishlisting the game on Steam. Last I heard, the developers were trying to make a console port possible, but for these things, big publishers need to see a lot of hype for a game. So wishlisting it is the best way to help them achieve this goal. And lastly, you can follow the official Twitter page to keep up with the most recent updates. Again, I don't often see indie games that look as ambitious as Strange Tales, so I thought that the least I could do was spread the word about it. But let me know what you guys think about it. Is Strange Tales something you already knew about? Or are you just now hearing about it? Whatever your thoughts are, make sure to leave them in the comments section below. As always, I want to give a big thanks to all of my YouTube and Patreon members for their continued support of the channel. I would also like to thank everyone who likes and shares my videos. It may not seem like much, but it really does help. And with that said, thanks for watching. And remember, go forth in the name of Olympus.